Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. Just gonna get things set up and we will be ready to go. Hope everyone's day is going well. Got actually some news and a few other things. And of course, this week's episode is going to be there's a lot to talk about. Baseball, NFL, college football predictions. Got a whole lot this episode. Buckle your seatbelt. There we go. That is set. Get audio recording. All right, let's begin. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of Bang the Booth podcast. On this week's episode, we've got MLB news, we've got NFL Week 16 recap with Week 17 predictions, and playoff clinching scenarios for all possibilities. We've got college football playoffs, including the national championship, no matter the scenario that could come out, predictions, and New Year's Six Bowl predictions, and for the first time in a while, Immaculate grade. Let's get right into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 107 of Bang the Booth podcast. Thank you so much for the support to this point. I very much do appreciate it. A few things before we get into this week's episode. It is a bit different timing. I did not have class really interfered. I was in Baltimore actually this morning and last night for a family event. All good news, thankfully. And I'm back. Happen to have class. I'm actually on my last few days of the semester, and I'm going to be done very soon. I feel like I might have mentioned this, but if not, I guess I'm re-mentioning this. Next week's episode is going to be normal. Following week will be normal, but the following day after next week's podcast, Wednesday, January 10th, or 2 weeks, sorry, I'm going to be going to my first Bulls home game since 2011, Eastern Conference Finals, Game 2 versus Miami, which it's been a really good long time, and I'm happy to finally be making that happen for the first time in a very long time. And then the following week, I'm probably going to end up pre-recording a podcast or doing a podcast Thursday because I'm going to be going to Atlanta for one, marking off my first baseball division of stadiums as I'm touring Truist Park, and two, I'm going to Atlanta Hawks Orlando Magic game on the 17th. And then class start again for me the following week. But that's scheduled for the upcoming. This week's episode, I still have the old mic. But next week, I think I will be having the new mic. It's supposed to come, I believe, Thursday or Friday. So next week will be with a brand new microphone. Can't wait to start using that. Last minute, I got invited, and chances are I'm probably going to end up going to Ravens-Dolphins this Sunday, 1 p.m. game. I'll get into predictions for that in a moment. But I might be going. Most likely going to probably end up going, barring something causing me not to go, but we'll see what happens. But probably will end up going, and if you're going to end up being there, maybe I end up bumping into you, or maybe you're somehow going with me, but either way, yeah, I might end up at Ravens-Dolphins, and especially because the case is I'm done with the semester at that point, and the Browns play Thursday Night Football. So it's kind of like, I have every reason to go, but we'll see what happens. Either way, let's get into Immaculate Grid, which we have not done on the podcast in a really long time. So today's grid, the top row is they started doing something new of like playing a certain position, minimum of one game. So today is played second base minimum of one game, MVP and 2,000 career strikeouts plus for pitching. MVP has to be with the team that they're connected to. The position is that had to be with the team, and then 2,000 plus career strikeouts that they had to pitch with the team. So let's get right into this. So second base for Cubs, I'm gonna go old non-common answer. Common answer, I could go with Ryan Sandberg. I could go Ben Zobrist. I could go like a whole bunch of answer, but Rogers Hornsby, who's more known for Cardinal and played like towards the end of his career with the Cubs. I'm gonna throw that one in. Yankees for second base, I could go Glaber. I could go Mayhew. I could go Cano. I could go. There's like a whole bunch of answers I could go with. I'm gonna go Rougned Odor. It's recent, but I feel like it's also like not gonna be a common answer. Yeah, 0.7, I'll take that. Hornsby was 0.5, by the way. Dodgers second base, I could go. There's a whole bunch of answers I could go recent. I could go Gavin Lux. I could go Max Muncy. I could go. I think Trey Turner might have played second base for the Dodgers. I'm not sure. There's a whole bunch of answers. Question is, what direction do I want to go here? I got a fun one actually. So infamous with this team for his own rule with the illegal slide. But then again, is that going to make him a common answer? You know what? I'm risking the biscuit. I'm going to go Chase Utley. I'll take 10%. That could have been a lot worse. Okay. MVP with the Cubs. There's Chris Bryant. There's Ernie Banks. I believe Rhino's won an MVP. Sosa's won an MVP. I'm pretty sure Sandberg's won an MVP. Ryan Sandberg, or Rhino as he's called. And I was correct. 13%. I will take that. Yankees, there's many answers. Gehrig, Ruth, I think DiMaggio's won one. Mantle's won one. Jackson might just be a World Series MVP, actually. So take back Reggie Jackson. I think he won one with Oakland. But it wouldn't count because it has to be with the team connected to it. Judge has won MVP. A-Rod's won MVP with them. I'm going to go... I'm going to say... I'm going to come back to Yankees because, like, out of all those names, I'm not sure who's going to be the least common. Dodgers, Kirk Gibson's an option. Clayton Kershaw, I'm pretty sure, has won an MVP. Bellinger. Honestly, I think I'm going to go Kershaw. Yeah, 15%. I'll take that. Yankees, I'm going to risk the biscuit. I'm pretty sure DiMaggio won one, and I feel like he's going to be the least. And he did 5%. I will take that. Okay, 2,000 plus career strikeouts for the Cubs. I feel like Mordecai Brown might have done it. Fergie Jenkins, I think, has done it. Max is I feel like for sure done. I don't know if there's not much else that's coming to mind. I'm going to go Mordecai Three Finger Brown because I'm pretty sure he has, and he is a part of the Cubs' two first World Series teams in their franchise history, for context. If you don't know who that is. He is nicknamed Three Finger because I'm pretty sure he literally only had 3 fingers. Am I correct to say he had 2,000 career strikeouts? No. I'm just going to go for Jenkins then. Okay, 28%. Anyways, I've only got one guess left between Yankees and Dodgers. I think Don Sutton's done it, so I'll throw him for Dodgers. Yeah. 182 rarity score, he was 9%. And, oh, wow, actually, Fergie was not top answer. The top answers for this grid, Ryan Sandberg was for second base for the Cubs at 21%. Cubs MVP was Chris Bryant at 25%. Sorry about that. Greg Maddux was for Cubs at 2,000 plus career strikeouts. Knobloch was second base for Yankees, which is interesting, at 19%. Aaron Judge, 24% for MVP Yankees. And Roger Clemens, 2,000 plus strikeouts for Yankees, 2,000 plus strikeouts. Dodgers second base, Mookie Betts at 19%. Interesting. Cody Bellinger, most for MVP at 31%. Makes sense. And Clayton Kershaw at 31% for Dodgers, 2,000 plus career strikeouts. There's 14 different answers. Let's see who am I not thinking of. I'll share this tab while I'm on here. Well, it doesn't say teams. Burt, no, Sunbury, Johnson, Maddux. There's 14 different answers apparently. Furry. Eckersley, that was a starter for the Cubs, but mostly known as a reliever. Sandy, of course, for Dodgers. John Lackey, I didn't even know he got to 2,000 strikeouts. Good for John Lackey. Offhand, not sure if anyone else fits Cubs, but interesting. But yeah, that's Immaculate Grid, doing that for the first time in a very long time. All right, let's get right into actual crux of this episode. Let's start off with the short news, baseball news. Yoshinobu Yamamoto has finally signed, and sadly for most of baseball, except if you're a Dodgers fan, he is going to the Dodgers, 12 years, $350 million. Does it seem like any of it is deferred at the moment? They haven't said anything about money being deferred like Ohtani. But this is nuts that they're getting both Ohtani and Yamamoto. And this is really setting them up that they're sending the memo. We are here to contend. We are here to legit contend. We are here to get a legit title. But at the end of the day, until they get that legit title, I'm not going to put them as World Series to win the World Series. I think their odds are higher. I think they have a better chance to. But until they win that World Series, that's legit. I am not counting them out. I'm not cementing it. Because here's the thing. They've been on this stretch of making the playoffs, not every year winning the division. 2021, they did not. Since 2013, and they've only had one World Series title show. They've had years where they're one and out, just LDS and out. They've had years where they've gone to the LCS and out. They've had years where they've gone to the World Series and lost. Like, so much mixes throughout that span. And I can even go through the history and tell you each year. 2013, they won the NL West. They faced Atlanta in the NLDS. They beat them in 4, lost to the Cardinals in the NLCS in 6, who lost the World Series that year. 2014 lost in the NLDS to the Cardinals. 2015 lost to the Mets in the NLCS. 16 lost to the Cubs in the NLCS. 17 lost in the World Series to the Astros with a huge asterisk. 18 lost to the Red Sox in the World Series with potentially an asterisk, debatable. 19 lost to the Nationals in the NLDS. 2020 they won the asterisk ring because of, well, it was COVID and a shortened season. 2021 lost the Braves in the NLCS, and the only time in this dynasty that they've not won the division title. They lost, the Giants won the division that year, but they beat the Giants in the NLDS in 5 games. 2022 lost the Padres in the NLDS, and 2023 they lost to the Arizona Diamondbacks in the NLDS. So, like, until they win that World Series, I am not cementing anything. but we'll see what happens. They've definitely boosted their odds. And the thing with like Glasnow, I was like, yeah, he's a very good player, but he's so inconsistently on and off the field that I can't really deem that as like a great move for them. Sorry. We'll see what happens. Before we get into NFL, let's dive into college football because this weekend, or the period between this week's episode and next week's episode, we officially get into college football playoffs and New Year's Six bowl games. I'm going to start with the rest of the New Year's Six bowl games, and then we'll dive into the college football playoffs, which I have included the college football national championship game with all four different possible scenarios that could come out for the championship game in the last year of 4 teams in the CFP. So it kicks off Friday with Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic between Ohio State and Missouri. Even with Ohio State losing a lot of people, I think Ohio State will still be a bit too much for Missouri, and I think they will beat Missouri. Saturday, we have 2 bowl games. The Chick-fil-A Beach Bowl between number 10 Penn State and number 11 Ole Miss. I am going with the number 11 Ole Miss because it's always the story for Penn State. They'll always win these. I mean, then again, it could be I guess it doesn't necessarily fit the script, but I think I'm picking Ole Miss. And then Capital One Orange Bowl, which is the one I'm going to be keeping an eye on, which now Florida State's got a real interesting quarterback situation because their third-string quarterback, who would technically be playing, isn't going to be playing, so I don't even know who's starting at quarterback. And honestly, because of that, I'm picking Georgia. I want Florida State to win because it could show like CFP that they kind of deserved it. But I honestly am not sure if they're going to now with the messed up quarterback situation at the moment. And I'm picking Georgia. New Year's, aside from college football playoffs being that day, we have the Verbal Fiesta Bowl between number 8 Oregon and number 23 Liberty. I have number 8 Oregon. And the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl between number 21 Tennessee and number 17 Iowa. Iowa just does nothing offensively. I've got number 21 Tennessee. And now for the college football playoffs. I sat down for some time trying to think about these predictions because they are not so simple. Well, some of them were not so simple. Some of them were. Rose Bowl between number 1 Michigan versus number 4 Alabama. Here's the thing. If Michigan did not have the scandal against them from the last 2 years, I would definitely have more of a thing to me, even with how much I hate them, being an Ohio State fan. If they did not have a scandal, I would have a thing to pick them against Alabama. But with that scandal in the back of my head, and Bama just being very, very good recently and very, very hot, and maybe even the hotter team, I cannot pick. I am picking Bama, even though I kind of hate Bama because that's just college football thing with the Saban dynasty. I will take picking the college football people hate over the college I hate because of, rivalry and the scandal. So I'm picking Alabama to beat Michigan. I think that really is going to be a good, close game. We'll see what happens. And then the other game, the All-State Sugar Bowl between number 2 Washington, number 3 Texas. This should be an interesting game. I have Washington winning this game. So, if my predictions are correct, meaning it'd be number 2 Washington versus number 4 Bama, I want Washington because they had got blown out by Bama in 2017, and this kind of feels like it's a year of revenge, and it kind of be fitting of that. But I think Bama would win that game. I think even if it's Texas, I would still take Bama. I really am basically going to put this predictions as this. I think the winner of Michigan Bama is going to beat no matter who wins Washington Texas. I think it could still be a close championship game, but realistically, I think whoever wins Michigan Bama is going to win it all. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. But I do think that way. Even scandal or not, I don't think Washington or Texas compares to Alabama or Michigan. And I'm even saying that with the fact that Texas has already beaten Bama this year, but Bama's way better than they were in that time when they lost to Texas. So those are my college football playoff predictions. And we'll see how it unfolds. We will be covering all the New Year's Six results and college football playoff results and how I did my predictions. And then I think literally the following week, Monday the 8th, is the national championship game in Houston. So, NFL Week 16 recap. What an interesting week we had this week. Steelers Saturday night were up 24-0 at half with third-string quarterback Mason Rudolph and won 34-11. Their 24 points at half was the most in a game since Week 7 of 2020 season, where they actually had 27 points. I think it was against – I forget who it was against, but yeah. But Pittsburgh had this game from beginning to end. Jake Browning was trash as I threw in the thumbnail. He was bad, like 3-4 interceptions. And just Pittsburgh and Cincinnati just had no shot from beginning to end. And this lined up. Now, here's the thing with the Browns playoff clinching scenarios. The Steelers beating the Bengals basically meant there was only one path for the Browns to clinch the playoffs. Otherwise, it would have been like the rest of the 7. But no, only one, and that was quickly shattered by the fact that the Bills beat the Chargers 24-22, and this was the fact that the Chargers had more first downs, more time of possession, fewer penalties, and 0 turnovers versus the Bills 3 turnovers, and yet lost and are eliminated from the playoffs. Bills won a 29-yard field goal on a Peacock exclusive game, which was that's stupid that they're doing Peacock exclusive games between college football and NFL. Stop it. You just stop it. You're going to lose viewership by doing that. Anyways, with a 30-24 win versus the Vikings, Lions have won first ever NFC North title, which the division's been that way since 2002 and first division title flat out since 1993 back when it was the NFC Central, where it was the same division, but also with Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. Browns beat the Texans 36-22 on the back of Amari Cooper's historic performance. 11 catches for 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. Marked a lot of history. First Browns player all-time with consecutive seasons with 1,000-plus receiving yards. Second player in NFL history with 175-yard receiving game with 3 different teams, doing it with Vegas, Dallas, and Cleveland. Joining Terrell Owens, who I don't know what teams he's done with, but he's played for a bunch of teams. His 200 receiving yards, a part of the 265, is most in a single road game for Cleveland, passing Eric Metcalf and Gordon Nagler with 177 yards each in a game. And his 265 yards is most by a Browns player ever in a game, passing Josh Gordon from 2013 against the Jaguars. And then Joe Flacco had a performance of his own, 27-42, 368 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Did actually run a play, I don't know how many yards. Marks 3 straight games of 300-plus passing yards at a very old age. Joining Tom Brady with the Buccaneers in 2020 and with New England in 2017, Warren Moon with the Vikings in 1995, and Peyton Manning with the Broncos in 2014, which puts the Browns in a pivotal position going into this week's game, and we'll get to that in a few moments once we get to the Week 17 predictions. Reds Airline 54-yard field goal leads the Jets over the Commanders 30-28 after blowing a 27-7 lead. But they were able to squeeze out a win. Anders Carlson, 32-yard field goal leads Packers over the Panthers 33-30 after almost completely blowing a 23-10 lead and 30-16 lead. Jason Sanders, 29-yard field goal leads Miami to a 22-20 win over the Cowboys and to the playoffs. And this is also their first time they've beaten Dallas since 2003, Week 13, in a 40-21 win, and first time at home since 1984, Week 16, in a 28-21 victory. The Jets increases down its own. Congrats to Miami that you clinched the playoffs. We'll see if they get the division or not. But this was also big because they finally beat a playoff team, a team over 500. They finally got that mark. Congrats to them. They've definitely proven themselves, definitely to some extent more. And we'll see what happens on Sunday with them taking on Baltimore, which will have big impact on the 1 seed potentially, depending on how things unfold. Chad Ryland, 56-yard field goal leads the Patriots over the Broncos 26-23. Denver came back not fully, though, from down 23-7 to make it a game, but Patriots won in the end. Bill Nichols, 8-yard fumble return for a touchdown, and Jack Jones, 33-yard pick six leads Raiders over the Chiefs 2014, which also knocks the Chiefs out of contention for the first spot in the AFC. And Brock Purdy, 4 interceptions, which turns out he had a stinger, which that explained everything to me. Leads Baltimore hammering San Francisco 33-19. Lamar Jackson earlier in the game had a weird safety play that I have to talk about because it's the weirdest safety I've ever seen in my life. And I was at the game where Cameron Wake ended an overtime game on a safety against Andy Dalton and the Bengals. where he basically was going back to was trying to throw, backs up in the end zone, and trips over a referee and throws a pass out of bounds, but no receiver within him, intentional grounding, and a safety. And it gave the 49ers a short-lived lead. But that is this week's game notes. This week of predictions not as good as last week, but still a pretty good week. I went 10-6. I'm overall 148-92 in predictions this year. Standings update. Ravens in first place at 12-3 with clinching a playoff spot, followed by the Dolphins, who have also clinched a playoff spot, 11-4, followed by the 9-6 Chiefs, followed by the 8-7 Jaguars, followed by the 10-5 Browns, followed by the 9-6 Bills, followed by a four-way tie for 7th between the Colts, Texans, Steelers, and Bengals at 8-7, followed by a two-way tie for 11th between the Raiders and Broncos, I think it was, at 7-8. And then the NFC 49ers in first place at 11-4, having clinched the division already, followed by the 11-4 Eagles, followed by the 11-4 Lions, followed by who have the same record, I just realized. Well, first through third have the same record. I just realized that. Whoops. And followed by the 8-7 Buccaneers. Fifth is the Cowboys at 10-5, having clinched playoff spot. Two-way tie for sixth at 8-7 between the Rams and the Seahawks. Three-way tie for eighth between the Vikings, Falcons, and Packers at 7-8. Oh, and the Saints also have the same record. And then 12th place is the Bears at 6-9. Week 17 predictions. Week 17. Before we get into predictions, or I guess as we get into predictions and start mentioning teams that have clinching scenarios, I'm going to be diving into the clinching scenarios. Thursday Night Football, Jets at the Browns, which is apparently some sort of whiteout game. Well, Browns have a simple clinching scenario, but there is a way, even if they lose, to still clinch a playoff spot. And it's very much a lot simpler than last week. But if they beat the Jets on Thursday night, which I do have them winning, and it's not going to be Zach Wilson, it's going to be Trevor Siemian because Zach Wilson's got a concussion. The Browns are in to the playoffs if they win this game. Flat out, simple as that. They win, they're in. If they lose, though, they still have a chance. And here are the four different scenarios where even if they lose, they could still clinch the playoffs. If the Steelers lose to the Seahawks, the Browns would clinch playoff spot. If the Bills lose to the Patriots, which I doubt will happen even though New England did win the first time, the Browns would clinch a playoff spot. The Jaguars lose or tie to Carolina, they would clinch a playoff spot. Or the Texans lose to Tennessee and the Colts lose or tie to Vegas, the Browns would clinch a playoff spot. But ideally, they win. They're in. Simple as that. Saturday game, Lions at the Cowboys. This might be an interesting game. We'll see how it unfolds. I have the Cowboys winning this game. Neither team has a clinching scenario, so nothing really to talk about there. Sunday, New England at Buffalo. I have the Bills winning, and they could clinch a playoff spot, but there's a possibility to clinch a playoff spot. There are 14 different scenarios, and they're all whack. Buckle your seatbelt. This is going to be an interesting one. Not even all of them are Bills winning. So, scenario number one is that they win, the Steelers lose their tie versus Seattle, and the Bengals lose their tie versus Kansas City. Or they win, Steelers lose their tie versus Seattle, Jaguars lose their tie versus Carolina, or Bills win, Steelers lose their tie, Texans lose their tie, Colts lose their tie, or they win, Bengals lose their tie, Jaguars lose their tie, or Bills win, Bengals lose their tie, Texans lose their tie, Colts lose their tie, or Bills tie, Steelers lose, Bengals lose, Jaguars lose, which, by the way, there's no scenario where the Bills would win or lose and get in this week. Or Bills tie, Steelers lose, Bengals lose, Texans lose their tie, or Bills tie, Steelers lose, Bengals lose, Colts lose their tie, or Bills tie, Steelers lose, Jaguars lose, Texans lose their tie, or Bills tie, Steelers lose, Jaguars lose, and Texans and Colts lose their tie. Sorry, I just got to keep track of audio. Or Bills lose, Steelers lose, Jaguars lose, Colts lose, or no, Steelers lose, Texans lose, Colts lose, or Bills tie, Bengals lose, Jaguars lose, Texans lose or tie, or Bills tie, Bengals lose, Jaguars lose, Colts lose or tie, or Bills tie, Bengals lose, Texans lose, Colts lose. If any of those scenarios happen, basically Bills would clinch a playoff spot. Falcons at the Bears, which there is no clinching scenario at all for that game. I have the Bears. Raiders at Colts, which does not have a clinching scenario. I have the Raiders, which they're just really hot right now, and I'm riding with them. Falcons at Bears. No clinching scenario there. I have the Bears. I skipped, but whatever. Rams at Giants. I have the Rams. Cardinals at Eagles. There is a clinching scenario for that game. My prediction, by the way, is the Eagles. Give me one moment. Hold on. I just want to restart the audio recording. Okay. There we go. So if Eagles win and Cowboys lose or tie, or they tie and Cowboys lose, the Eagles would officially get the NFC East. I have Philly winning this game, but in my predictions, I have Dallas winning. So they wouldn't clinch this week, but we'll see what happens. Saints at Buccaneers. Tampa could clinch a playoff berth and NFC South division flat out if they win or if they tie and lose. I have them winning, which would clinch them the division. 49ers at Commanders. I have the 49ers. They could clinch the 1 seed and the lone first round bye and home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs. Where they win, Lions loss, and Eagles loss. And I have them at least winning. Either way, Panthers and Jaguars. I have the Jaguars, which if they win, Colts lose, and Texans lose, they could clinch a playoff berth and the AFC South Division title. Dolphins at Ravens. Big impact in this game on both sides. If the Ravens win or tie, or the Browns lose or tie, the Ravens would get the AFC North. They would also get home field advantage in the AFC's 1 seed if they beat Miami. On the flip side, if where this helps Miami is if they win or tie, or Bills lose or tie, they would get the AFC East. I have Baltimore winning this game, and honestly, if I'm going to this game, I don't plan on specifically rooting for anyone because I do not want to get in a fight, and I don't want to really root for the Ravens because I'm a Browns fan, and I can't do that to my own self. So if I'm going to be rooting neutral for that game in the stadium. Anyways, Titans at Texans. I have the Texans. Steelers at Seahawks. I have the Seahawks, which I believe they don't. No. They could clinch a playoff berth with a win and a Packers-Vikings tie, which, let's be honest, probably not happening, but might as well at least mention it. Chargers at Broncos. I have the Broncos. I don't believe that there's a clinching scenario with that game, and there is not. Sorry about that. Bengals at Chiefs. There is a scenario for the Chiefs where they could clinch a playoff berth and the AFC West Division title with a win or tie, or Raiders lose or tie and Broncos lose or tie, which I do have them winning, which would give them the AFC West. And then Monday Night Football, Packers at Vikings. I have the Vikings winning, which there are no playoff clinching scenarios in that game, and there's no Monday Night Football games this week. So that is the predictions for this week in football, and that is this week's episode of the podcast. Just give me one moment, and we will wrap things up. Whew. You know, one thing, wow. before while I'm here, let me see if by the way, I know I don't talk about basketball a lot here, but Pistons are on a 26-game losing streak and on the verge of possibly 27 tonight playing Brooklyn, which would be longest in a single season in NBA history. And the Knicks-Pistons game I was at on my birthday is actually part of the losing streak, which is hilarious because not only have I been part of that losing streak, but I've also been at a part of the Browns 0-16 season. I was at the home finale against the Ravens, so it'd kind of be fitting to be a part of both for a game. All right, let's wrap things up. Whew. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Betty in the Booth podcast. On next week's episode, if there's any MLB news between now and then, we will have MLB news. We will have NFL Week 17 recap with 18 predictions, and we will have New Year's 6 plus college football playoffs recap. And, well, I guess we'll find out who's going to be in the national championship game and anything else that can happen between now and then, and hopefully with a brand new mic. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you're new on YouTube, leave a like, hit the subscribe button, leave a notification button to notify when I go on and or post a new video. If you're new on audio, follow the podcast, leave a review, hit notification button to notify when I post on there. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I will see you in next week's episode 108. Bye-bye.